my name is Lewis with Rossman Repair Group and Rossman Supply Group, and today I'd like to discuss how you should treat a receptionist at a business if you're looking to do any sort of business with them and have that business be profitable and have your efforts when you call them be successful. Now, the reason I discuss this is because we have typically two types of people that call in. There are people that call in who tell us what they want, what their intentions are, and why they want to speak to somebody, and there are people that call in that just become incredibly agitated, that see the receptionist as a brick wall that they just need to kick their way through in order to actually get something done. Now, at most businesses, a lot of the times, the receptionist is there, to be honest, as a warm body to answer the phone and to say hello to people. The receptionist is not a reflection of how they do business. The receptionist virtually has no knowledge of how that business operates and is typically paid poorly and in a high turnover job position. So many people have gotten used to this idea that you could just kick right through the receptionist to get to who you want in the company, and that's just standard practice. I didn't start my company with this intention. The whole reason that for a very, very long time I was the only person dealing with almost everything is because when you called, I wanted you to speak to somebody who is knowledgeable and who could properly answer your question the exact same way that I would answer your question. Because I thought we would get a lot of good return business if, when you called, you got to speak to somebody who was actually knowledgeable. So when I hired a receptionist, I decided to hire a receptionist that was a direct reflection of how I think and how I would treat people, and I also sought to train her on a lot of the different services and products we offer, a lot of the typical problems, and a lot of how we deal with it so that she could give you the exact same answer that you would get if you spoke to me. Now, this way you wouldn't feel you were obligated to, let's say, kick your way through the receptionist. You know, kicking your way through the receptionist is not an effective thing to do at a lot of other small businesses, especially ours, because we actually like each other. Now, there are people who will call in and say, you know, I wanted to do this, that, and the other, you know, can I speak to him now? Or a lot of the times they'll call and just say, I want to speak to Lewis. And she'll go, okay, what is this regarding? And some people will go, well, he spoke to me about purchasing 40 of these panels at this price, and I just wanted to confirm the deal. My name is, let's say, Alan, and they'll go, oh, okay, absolutely, he was expecting you. Let me just patch him through. And I'll speak to them, and everything will be fine. Now there are people that call in and go, I'd like to speak to Lewis, and they go, okay, well, who is this, and what is this regarding? And they'll go, Lewis! Yes, I actually had somebody fucking growl, which was the motivation behind making this video. There are people who will call in who just lose all self-control and just think that, you know, they could let out all of their anger for the day on this one receptionist. Now, this person was somebody who actually had a decent amount of business that they wanted to do with us. They worked somewhere in like some IT job where they were working with a company that got a grant with a lot of Apple computers, and they needed at least 50 or 100 motherboard repairs done, which would be a good amount of business for us. Now, the thing is, I decided not to go ahead with dealing with this person, and I'll explain why. I had spoken to them at about 11 p.m. the night before, and I said, well, with the amount of business that you have, it seems like we could, you know, set you up with a 2 or 3 discount. You'll be paying about this much less than everybody else. This is not something that we typically do. Here are the details and the terms of how we would work. And if you would have any questions about finalizing this, feel free to reply to this email or call, and I will speak to you when I'm free. Now, I thought things went well. He called, and when he spoke to the receptionist, he said that. He said, you know, I'd like to speak to Lewis, and she said, well, what is this concerning, and, you know, how can he help you? And he goes, Lewis! I heard it because she was eating her lunch at the time. She reached over to answer the phone, and it was on speaker. I would not have believed her. And again, we don't record phone calls, so there's no way for me to actually see that someone was being such a colossal, unprofessional, arrogant dickhead over the phone had it not been on speaker. But I heard it, and I told her, hang up. Just hang up. You're not to be treated this way by anybody who went. Now, I get an email from this dickhead about 2 hours later explaining how rude this receptionist was. He called back, and she did her best to, you know, speak nicely and just ask the questions that she needed to ask. And he wouldn't budge at all. He wouldn't answer. He wouldn't, you know, he was just an disagreeable dickhead. So he emails me to tell me, you know, I can't believe this. I was treated like this. You know, you should fire her, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'd like to go ahead with the deal that you proposed. And I said, no. That was it, just no in the email. And I get a reply from him saying, you know, what the hell? And then I'm thinking to myself, you think that I'm actually the kind of business owner that's just going to throw people that work here under a bus because you throw money at me? And you know, if you chase money before you chase, let's say, respect or dignity or morals, you're not going to have the money and you're not going to have your dignity or respect. That's how business works a lot of the time. If you say, you know what, I typically wouldn't deal with you, but I'm going to deal with you because your money, you're not only going to lose the money, you're also going to lose your self-respect and the respect of others around you. And that's just a lesson that you're going to learn someday if you decide to start a business and you listen to these big fish stories, because sometimes they're actually real. For all I know, he may have actually had 100 motherboards to send in within a 1-month period that we would have made, you know, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars off of. But I'll never know because I don't want to deal with you now. Now, I'm not going to throw away the employee. Now, don't get me wrong. If the employee did something wrong, I will deal with them. But I'm not going to actually tell the customer, I'm sorry, I'm firing that person just because you flash a lot of money in front of my face. That's not right. And it's not even about it being right. It's about how much trouble that money is going to bring in. A friend of mine named John, who used to work with me, said that about 20% of your customers will cause 80% of your problems, and that this is only acceptable if those 20% of your customers are bringing you 80% of your money. Now, I don't even think it's acceptable if those problems are being caused by people who are bringing you 90% of your money. If that were the case, I would simply move ahead and go ahead into another business, and you know, just it's been fun selling screens, but goodbye. Now, if you're going to cause that many problems just over a phone call, when somebody asks, what can Lewis help you with? How difficult are you going to be with any other part of doing business? Because keep in mind, doing business is not just, okay, we made a deal, goodbye. Doing business is, he sends in 100 boards, and 7 of them have severe problems that are going to take me an extra 5 days to solve. And I tell you, listen, here's a picture. Here's what we're trying to work with. Here's how fucked up this section of this board is, and it's going to take an extra 5 days. And how are you going to act? Are you going to act like a civilized human being, or are you going to act like a child? If I tell you, okay, we've sent you an invoice number, 1105, 1106, 1107, and 1108. You've only paid for 1105 through 1107. Here's the tracking information for you receiving the boards for invoice 1108. Was there anything wrong with them? Is there a reason you haven't paid this invoice yet? This is business, having to deal with all these stupid little problems that come up. Now, when these problems come up, I need to know, are you going to handle it like a grown-up business person, or are you going to handle it like an arrogant little child? And if you can't deal with the receptionist with a basic question like an adult, how do I know that how am I going to deal with everything else after that? Because this is not just a small detail. This is a small detail. This is one tiny little detail. But this tells me how all the other details are going to show up. If you can't be nice with basic communication with a low-level staffer, then how about billing? How about the actual process? How about warranty? How about any of these other things that we're going to have to deal with? They're all going to go bad if you can't even handle this one basic conversation properly. That's how I see it. I don't see it as, we'll just get past this one little detail. It's the same thing with lowballing. When customers used to call prior to us having a store, if they said that, oh, it's 160, will you do it for 130? I would say, no, thank you very much, goodbye. And I wouldn't take them in as a customer, because the person that has an issue with it being 130 versus 170, who actually gets angry over the phone about it, even if they agree to the 160 or 170, once it's done, I'm going to have this issue again. Or even if I don't have that issue again, I'm going to have an issue when they call back 1 year later to say my battery's kind of dying. It happened since you replaced my screen. The people who show you that they're going to be trouble with the small things, that trouble is going to come back to bite you in the ass 10 times as much when it comes to the big things. And that's why I don't believe in throwing, let's say, just replying to the email and saying, I'm so sorry that she said that. Oh, I don't want to lose your business. I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to give her a real good speaking to. And if she doesn't understand, then we'll just have to find somebody else. No, fuck that. I'm not going to throw a good employee under the bus because you don't know how to act. And I'm not going to do it regardless of how much money you offer. Now, moving on, there are other reasons that people may call in. One of the main ones I'd like to touch on in this video are people who call in just for information. A lot of people call in for information, but there's one particular type of person that calls in to use me as an encyclopedia. And to be honest, I don't really mind a lot of the time. If you're calling to ask if a certain back cover will fit the back cover to your computer, and it's one that you already, you bought somewhere else and you're not even going to use us, let's say I tell you, well, does your computer have an 820-2879 motherboard in it or an 820-2836? And they go, why? And I go, well, the type of board in the computer will actually tell me the back cover that you have without removing the glass, and then I can tell you if that fits. I have all this information in my head. I know which back covers go to which motherboards. I know which motherboards go to which laptops. I know what the A in LP133WX3 TLA5 means versus if there was a G in that position. I have most of these model numbers memorized, and for all of my shortcomings as a person, I have very good memory when it comes to model numbers and part numbers. So a lot of the time, I will get used as an encyclopedia. Also for certain repairs, people will call up after they blow their backlight. People will call up after, let's say they get an image in a backlight but no image. And again, I'll know for specific model laptops, just out of experience, exactly what it is without having to even look at it. And I don't even mind being used as an encyclopedia. I really don't. And a lot of the times I'll even explain to them the thought process behind my thinking, even if it takes an extra 5 minutes that I'm not being paid for, so that they'll know what to do the next time it happens. I like the sense of camaraderie. Even if you work for another repair company, even if you work for another small company that just sells parts to people in your area, I don't mind. I don't mind if you're competition. I don't mind informing or educating competition on what they don't know, because maybe I'll call you someday to educate me on something that I don't know. I like the sense of camaraderie versus the sense of just cutthroat competition with businesses that do the same thing. But there are times when you may call, and let's say you're calling with you're asking for free information, and I'm eating breakfast, and it's 3 p.m. And I get to work at maybe 9 or 10 in the morning. Now it's 3 p.m. and I'm eating my first meal because I've been busy all day, and you call asking for free information. She may say, okay, well, can I take a message and he'll get back to you in 5 minutes? And that's a reasonable thing to ask. A small business may not be able to run if the person who's trying to do work is not able to, or because of constant calls. I may want to call you back in 5 minutes when I actually have the time for it. That's what the receptionist is there for. Or now if somebody calls because they ordered a laptop repair standard overnight, it's 5 minutes to the cutoff time, and I need to test it, and I need their password so I can test it before I send it back, I may say, you know what, let me put down my breakfast sandwich and walk over to this laptop because this is important. I will do that if I know that it's important. But if you can't get across to the receptionist what it is you're calling for, people are not going to respond well to you. There are different levels of priority when somebody calls in, and we need to know what the priority is in order to actually run a well-oiled business. Again, as I stated before, there are a lot of companies where they have 19 people doing slightly less work than we have done with 5 people. And the reason that our prices are where they are, and the reason we're able to sell grade A parts at these prices, the reason we're able to perform lasting quality repairs at the prices we do, is because we essentially cut the fat out of every aspect of running this kind of business. Now, this is not just for customers. This is for working professionals as well. Business-to-business relationships can go sour if you're a salesperson and this is how you view the receptionist. If you know that the purchasing manager at a company is named, let's say, Tim, and you go, I want to speak to Tim, and they go, what is this regarding? And they go, get me to Tim. They may just send you to an extension that leads you to Tim's voicemail, knowing that he won't pick up every time you call. People like being treated nicely, and when you treat people nicely, you usually get that back in return. Whereas, if you're a dick to the person that you speak to, they may not really care to show you anything other than how you've treated them. Now, if you call and you say, hi, I'd like to speak to Tim, and they go, what is this concerning? And you're a good salesman, you may know that there's a particular shortage of a certain part in the market, and you'll go, well, I'm sorry, I've been very, very bad in getting back to him. I have a deal on, product X, and it's $100 a piece. I really forgot to get back to him. Now, even if she doesn't know if you're full of shit and that he never even asked you to get back to him, the receptionist may hear Tim walk back and forth and go, God damn it, I can't find product X. I don't know what we're going to do without product X. We have 6 purchase orders that have been submitted for product X, and I don't even have any available. She may say, oh, okay, let me patch you through to him, without even asking Tim if if he wanted to speak with you. And then when you get to him, he'll go, oh, well, I've never heard of you, but yeah, I want to buy that. And you'll have made a successful sale, and you'll have jumped over the receptionist without being disrespectful, just based on using your brain, using your intuition, and most importantly, using your manners. Whereas if you call and you're angry, you may not make a sale. Now, the other important thing about how you treat a receptionist, it's likely how you treat other people in your life. How far are you going to get with your customers, with, let's say your teachers, with your friends, with your girlfriend's parents, if the way you deal with anybody who's right in between you and what you want is with anger? You shouldn't deal with an obstacle with anger, with rage, with irritation. You should deal with the obstacle with, a sense of grace, dignity, and, try to get around it. Don't try to just step on it. That's all for this evening.